Welcome along to Silverstone, everybody. We're on the Grand Prix circuit this weekend. We've got round 13 of the 2024 Hagerty Radical Cup UK coming up for you. Cars were out for qualifying earlier on today. Of course, nowadays in the Hagerty Radical Cup UK, the pit stop races are gone. They're all sprint races over the course of the weekend. And of course, we have the main pack of cars, largely SR3s. And then, of course, towards the tail end of the field with their own separate grid, they'll go off a few seconds later on, the SR1s. So it's two different championships to watch out for, and a range of returning drivers and new drivers on the grid for this one. I'll just guide you through the grid. We haven't got a grid graphic that we can bring you, but let's just guide you through the grid. The number 7 car of Ian Aguilera lines up on pole position, and alongside him is the championship leader, the number 20 car of Chris Lulham. Row 2 of the grid, long-time Radical racer, number 14, John McLeod, who lies 4th in the championship standings, has another long-time racer alongside him, number 3, Chris Preen. Row 3 of the grid, 82, Christian Brooks, and 21, Jack Yang, with row 4 being number 23, Jason Rishover, and the man who's second in the championship, number 95, Oscar Joyce. Row 5, two drivers that join us from regularly racing in the Radical Gulf Cup. It's Usman Mughal, number 34, lines up alongside number 77, which is Aline Gashib. And row 6 of the grid, Peter Tyler, and number 32, Luke Hilton, is only 12th on the grid. For me, is out of position because he lies second in the championship standings. Row 7, Rob Greenwood and Paul Denning, with row 8 being Andy Lowe and Amir Faisalim. Row 9 is Peter Brooks and Gavin McAlpine. Row 10 is Adrian Hallmark and John Davis, who returns to the championship and with the first time with an SR3 XXR. The next row of the grid, row 11, Wesley Fongini and Rupert Adcock, with Lee Jackson and Jim Booth, the American, lining up on row number 12. And James Pinkerton, watch out for him. He is the head of R&D for Radical. He was a 2016 Radical champion, but he didn't set a time in qualifying. Goes from 13th row of the grid, 25th position. Then we get a couple of rows gap before we'll see the SR1s. And pole for the SR1s is number 11, Marcus Littlewood, who lies second in the SR1 championship standings. He's got the championship leader, number 16, Sam Shaw, alongside him. Those two have traded the wins largely this year. Row 2 for the SR1s, it's all the family members. It's Bradley Gaunt and his brother, Ashley Gaunt. And then the final row for the SR1s is James Hadley and former Ginetta racer, number 98, which is Lexi Belk. So they all line up in those positions on the grid. We're on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. So we're starting from the national pits, so the old start-finish line, and midway round the lap they'll head over the international pit straight, which is what they'll be using in the British Grand Prix and in MotoGP that's here in just a few weekends' time. But drivers to watch out for, well, we know Chris Lulham is quick. He leads the championship standings, took 2 wins at Donington Park, supporting the British Touring Car Championship. He took all 3 wins supporting BTCC at Snetterton, again supporting BTCC at Alton Park, all 3 wins there. Then was the array round at Paul Ricard. What happened there? All 3 wins. So the only one race he hasn't won so far was the 3rd race at Donington Park, where he finished outside of the top 6. Still scored well, but didn't quite muster enough to get himself inside the top 6. So he starts from the outside of the front row of the grid, the Pro Sim racer. He races as part of Max Verstappen's professional sim team, but it's Ian Aguilera, the Le Mans prototype driver, that sits there on pole position in the Pop Bang colour car. You can see the multicoloured livery to it. That was unveiled at Goodwood just a few weekends ago, and he'll be hoping to see whether he can convert this one to a race win. We'll keep an eye on what's going on in the Fangio Cup as well, which is for those drivers in the SR3s that are 45 years and over. John McLeod, who is 3rd on the grid, qualified on pole position for that one in reality, but right alongside him is Chris Preen, and he is also eligible for the Fangio Cup. So the cars are in neat 2x2 order. Watch out for the white car with its day-glow flashes of James Pinkerton, who starts from 25th on the grid, but won't remain there. I'm sure he will make progress. So in neat 2x2 order, 30 minutes are on the clock, and we're about to get round 13 of the 2024 Hagerty Radical Cup UK underway here at Silverstone. Lights will be on the gantry. The black and the red car on the outside of the front row of the grid is Chris Lulham. But as the lights go out on the gantry any second, which they do now, Ian Aguilera will have the inside line and will try and hang on to it. It's all very tight with people already shuffling for position, and it looks as though Chris Lulham is right around the outside, but there's contact further back, and we're going to end up with 3, 4, maybe 5 cars in the gravel trap, one of which is John McLeod. And in fact, we've probably got 6 or 7 cars that all went to the gravel trap, some of them recovering, but hopefully everybody will dig themselves out, and that's split the pack already. There's John McLeod. He is going nowhere, I'm afraid. Who had qualified on pole position in the Fangio Cup. but it's Chris Lulham that leads the way in the early stages of this one. Another car that was involved, that's Jason Rishover, I think, potentially it's involved there. Difficult to see the number from that one, but it looks like the coloration of Jason Rishover's car. So lots of weaving around being done to try and break the toe of everybody. All the SR3s heading up towards Stowe Corner. The SR1's just that little bit further back. Rob Greenwood was trying to pull a move there. I'm just going to get a quick look, I think, possibly of what happened. I think we're going to get a replay potentially, but everybody else safely through the first few corners. We'll pick out also what's happening in the SR1s as well, because it looks as though the Gaunt brothers have got themselves together. And Lexi Belt's making good progress in the early stages. The white car with the Dayglow flashes. So we've got 3 cars at least in the gravel trap there. So we can't see the numbers from there, but Jason Rishover looked like he was possibly one of them. And the other one, difficult to try and pick out. So yeah, I'm sure that's Jason Rishover. It looks like 2 on the side, but his number would be 23, and it matches the coloration of his car. So I think Jason Rishover, another one of those that's got tangled up. And then we've got an all-white car in the gravel trap. That might be Ame Faisalin possibly, that's also gone into the gravel trap. John McLeod's we know for sure. We can see the number of that one. And not unsurprisingly, with several cars in the gravel trap all at Copse Corner, out comes the safety car. So all of the cars will have to ease their pace. The clock will still continue to tick. Chris Lulham will still continue to lead, but of course no overtaking at this stage. So Chris Lulham leads. Ian Aguilera there in 2nd position. There's Andy Lowe, ex-Radical SR1 race at the wheel of his Radical SR3 XXR. But everybody's just easing their pace as they head over the start-finish line for the first time. And yeah, Jason Rishover tumbling down through the order. And the white car, I said, might be Ame Faisalin. He is tumbling down through the order. The number 82 car, Christian Brooks, that will be the red car with the white flashes. And I couldn't quite work out whether it was him or not. He is also out of the race. So I think those are... And Chris Preen has not come through as yet either. Neither has John Davis, but I just wonder if some of those were the cars that were slightly delayed. Yeah, John Davis comes over the start-finish line now, so he was just slightly delayed by the rest. So we've lost Ame Faisalin, we've lost Jason Rishover, we've lost Christian Brooks, we've lost Chris Preen somewhere. Haven't seen Chris's car come through just as yet. So that's the drivers that have qualified 1st and 2nd in the Fanjo category, both potentially out of the race. Because of course we've lost John McLeod, because we could see his car in the gravel trap. So it's 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th and 16th that were qualified on the grid, that all somehow managed to tangle themselves together. And as for James Pinkerton, I said watch out for him from the tail end of the field, having not set a time in qualifying. The head of R&D for Radical I did say he wouldn't remain 25th for much longer. Well, how about the fact that he's 14th after, well, not even 1 lap of racing really, because the safety car came out midway round the lap, so there would have been a chunk of that first lap in which he would not have been able to overtake. So Chris Lulham leads under safety car. Here we're going to get a replay, I think, of the start. So cars go over the start-finish line. Keep your eye on the white and the Dayglow green car of John McLeod. He's on the inside line. There was a little bit of contact there, I think, with Ian Aguilera, and then the concertina effect of everybody having to scatter to avoid rotating cars ahead of them. Some drivers getting away with it and dragging themselves back out of the gravel trap. And I'm afraid for the likes of John McLeod, Chris Preen, Christian Brooks, Jason Rishover and Ame Faisalin, then they were done. And they will be out of this race, and very disappointed indeed. Through all of that, Jack Yang rather, made it up into 3rd position. 4th place, number 34, which is Usman Mughal, who is racing here this weekend as a result of a prize from his exploits in the 2023-2024 Gulf Cup, because it goes over the back end of the winter in 2023 and concludes in the early part of 2024. So he's the reigning Gulf Cup champion, and he'll be hoping that he can do good things. So he's now up into 4th place. Peter Tyler gained 6th position. He's up into 5th, and 6th at the moment is another man who regularly races in the Gulf Cup, and that is Arlene Gashev. He's racing for 360 Racing this weekend, so we regularly see him out racing in the Gulf Cup. Andy Lowe is 7th. Oscar Joyce is in 8th position. 9th place is the number 47 car, which is going to be Rob Greenwood, and completing the top 10 at the moment That is Paul Denning, who is the Yamaha World Superbike team principal, Paul Denning. So he's a busy, busy man. And was probably what, up at Donington Park, was it just last weekend? No, 2 weekends ago. So might take another lap yet for all the cars to be extracted out of the gravel trap. Who's leading the SR1s in the early stages? Well, in answer to that, down in 19th position, it is Marcus Littlewood that leads the charge of the SR1s at the moment. The man who lies second in the championship standings, and so far this season has taken 5 wins in the SR1 category. He took 3 of those at Paul Ricard last time out. His other wins came at Donington Park and at Snetterton. Second in the SR1s is going to be his main championship rival, which is Sam Shaw, whilst the clearing up continues. Sam Shaw has finished either first or second in the SR1 category in every race so far this season. He's actually had a couple of top 6s as well. Top 6 overall at Snetterton and at Alton Park. So he really has had a mega season. So the SR3's the 1500cc engine, the SR1's is the 1340 engine, either the Gen 1, the Gen 2 or the Gen 5 motor if you're running in the XXR SR1. So the next car that we saw getting extracted out of the gravel trap was Amir Faisalim. So his car is being removed. There's Lexi Belk, who is a Motorsport UK Academy driver in the family-run team, Belk Racing. Adrian Hallmark just going through at the wheel of number 8 car, who's recently announced as moving over from his current role as CEO of Bentley Cars, and will shortly take up the role of CEO at Aston Martin. So, who's he running at the moment? Adrian Hallmark. He is 11th place, so only just outside of the top 10, having started 19th on the grid. So again, another one that, as the pack scattered, was able to pick up a few places. The very tail end of the field is number 9, which is John Davis, returning with his new SR3 XXR. So he is right at the tail end of the field, having been the last of those to either dig himself out of the gravel trap or, I think in his case, recover from the spin. And all of this, of course, eats into the time. 30-minute race. We've got just over 21.5 minutes remaining, and we've only had, what, half, 3/4 of a racing lap so far. Marshall's, as ever, working tirelessly hard to try and get the incident cleared up as soon as possible. But equally as just make sure that they don't cause any further damage to cars. So one recovery truck now has got Amir Faisalin's car on the back of it. There's another car that's just up the road, which can only be Chris Preen's, because that's the only car I hadn't identified exactly where he was. So that must be the one that's now going to be collected, and the one that's going to be lifted up is going to be Christian Brooks, another former Radical SR1 racer. Christian, like so many in the field, have stayed with the Radical family and worked their way up through the ranks in reality, starting with the SR1s, moving up to the SR3s, and of course, you know, many of these drivers will be looking forward to heading out into the Gulf to Yas Marina for the World Finals at the end of the season, where all of the numerous Radical Championships come together, whether it be North America, whether it be Gulf, whether it be Scandinavia, whether it be UK, whether it be Australia, and many more. Was it 14, 15 different championships globally now for Radicals? So yeah, Chris Preen's car, I think, is going to be towed back to the pit lane. On the back of the flatbed recovery unit is Amir Faisalin's. So disappointment for Valor Racing and Chris Preen, disappointment for 360 competition and Amir Faisalin. And safety car still out there for one further lap, so we've now got, what, 3 laps completed, but most of them so far having been behind the safety car. So Chris Preen's car now on the back of a tow rope. Just out of Cops Corner is the safety car, so the recovery truck will have to wait for the whole of the train of cars to go by. Still need to make sure that we get the car of Christian Brooks out of harm's way, but the telehandler is in the process, I think, of lifting his car out of the way, so I'm hopeful, possibly, this could be the final lap behind the safety car. Now, it won't extinguish its lights anywhere near now. It's going to be somewhere down the Wellington Straight where the lights will go out if we're going to go green at the end of this lap. It's taking about 3.5 minutes for the safety car to do a lap, but if the information comes back from recovery crews and the teams that we're nearly done. The safety car will up its pace a little bit. It does look as though it is now just starting to speed up a little bit, as all of the drivers are still busy working, weaving from side to side to try and maintain the air pressure in the Control Hankook tyres, which were announced a few years ago now as the global partner for Radical. There goes number 47. That is Rob Greenwood, one of the many former Radical SR1 racers that we've got in the field. So lights are still on the safety car as it heads through Vale. Up towards Beckett's goes the recovery truck, but it should keep turning right here and head out of harm's way. So, yep, there's a little gap in the barriers there where the truck can go through. So that gets Amir Faisalin's car out of harm's way. That also gets Chris Preen's car out of harm's way. We saw that Christian Brooks was being hoisted behind the barrier. We know that John McLeod has already been lifted out of harm's way as well. And Jason Rishover's car was no longer in the gravel, so that's out of harm's way. So I do think we might be going green at the end of this lap, which has quite substantively eroded the amount of racing time under green flag conditions, but hopefully this lap we can start to get things up and running again. So Chris Lulham leads from Ian Aguilera at the wheel of the Pop Bang colour liveried car. Remember, it's Jack Yang that's there in third place. He started for Valor Racing. 6th on the grid, driver who we've seen a good chunk of racing, not in the UK, but he's also dabbled with Radical North America and the Gulf Cup Series as well, Radical Gulf Cup. So what can Jack Yang do in this one? His best result so far this season has been a 5th place. He's not done every round, but 5th place is his best so far this season. So, right, lights are out on the safety car, which means we are going to go racing at the end of this lap. And therefore, it will now be up to Chris Lulham to decide as to when he wants to go. He's backing the pack up at the moment. Ian Aguilera is flashing his lights to try and get Chris Lulham to do the hurry up, but it's up to the race leader to go when he wants to go. And is he going to go yet? No, he's still weaving from side to side, gets to the exit of Lovefield and still weaves from side to side. He's biding his time as to when he wants to hit the accelerator pedal. He's still not gone just as yet. Up towards Woodcote Corner, he's leaving it very late indeed to get the race back underway, and surely any second now he's going to have to get going. So there's the green flag. He leaves it almost till the last moment. There's no overtaking until they get to the control line, and already you could see that Jack Yang was trying to cover off the attack that was coming in from behind from Usman Mughal. So out of Cops Corner, up towards Maggots and Beckett's, Jack Yang, Usman Mughal next up. A bit of a slide around in the background for Alim Geshev, I think that was, at the wheel of the number 77 car, just gathered up the small moments. He's got right behind him the next of the cars, which I think might be Peter Tyler, who's been picked off by one already. And again, even down the straight, still weaving from side to side, is Chris Lulham, the championship leader, the pro sim racer, trying to maintain and keep a bit more tyre temp up if he can. Alim Geshev there goes right the way around the outside and looks to gain the place. And it does look as though he is through and ahead there and has taken a place away from Usman Mughal. Two drivers that race in the Gulf Cup together. Oscar Joyce, oh, contact. Oscar Joyce there, tried to turn in. Andy Lowe was in the way. Oscar Joyce spins to the outside of Club Corner, gets himself out of harm's way. But for Oscar Joyce, that is going to be a long old recovery period to get the car pointing in the right direction. And also for the other car that was recovering, which was Andy Lowe, I think he rejoined directly in front of James Pinkerton, who had to get on the gas. So James Pinkerton, in fact, that's a problem for James Pinkerton. He is slowing quite substantively coming down the Hamilton Straight and is pulling off to the side of the circuit possibly. Let's hope he doesn't stop where that is, otherwise that would bring about potentially another safety car period. So there is James Pinkerton. It's not been his day really, has it? The head of R&D for Radical. Former SR1 Cup champion back some years ago. What was it, 2016 he was the champ, before he started his employment with Radical, that was. So 15 minutes to go, half of the race has elapsed already. The other car we need to keep an eye on is the progress of John Davis, who was compromised more than anybody with that first corner incident. John had qualified 20th position, and there's more contact, I'm afraid, and hopefully they'll both avoid each other. and that is Ashley Gaunt this time. And unbelievably, who did he tangle with? His brother. Sibling rivalry at its best there. So they both get going again. Just light touch between the pair of them, but both of the North Motorsport cars getting turned around there. 41 with the subtle yellow flash over the rollover hoop is Bradley Gaunt. It's also got the rear vertical fin on it. Ashley Gaunt is the car that sits behind. Right, Jack Yang under pressure here for third position. Jigging out from behind him, drawing himself alongside is Arlem Gashev. Can he work his way through? He tries it on the run in towards Stowe Corner. That doesn't quite work for Arlem Gashev, so he'll have to just bide his time for the moment if he wants to try and get himself up onto the podium spot. His first visit to Silverstone, and there's another spin, and that is, again, one of the Gaunts, isn't it? That's Ashley Gaunt that's gone around for a second time. Light damage to the front of his car. You can see a bit of perspex on the front light of it just starting to appear as a result of that subtle contact with his brother. Now, Arlem Gashev at the wheel of the number 77 car, the all-black car that's being run by the Radical factory for this weekend. He's trying to usher himself up onto the podium. Further down through the order, we've still got some good battles going on up towards the loop. Now, this is going to be further down through the order where we see this battle taking place. Along to the Wellington straight, start to build the speeds again. So through go the lead pair. There's Jack Yang, and it's going to be behind Peter Tyler. So that will be the car of Denning, won't it? So that'll be Paul Denning that is in the hunt, trying to get himself back through and ahead again. I think of the 32 of Luke Hilton, who's managed to squeeze his way through this time. So Hilton is up into 7th place. Denning will drop down into 8th, if that's correct. Will be confirmed as he can open the start-finish line this next time through. Yeah, absolutely. So place gain there for Luke Hilton. Place lost for the number 25 car of Paul Denning. There's John Davis. Now that's the car I said to watch out for, because he dropped all the way to the tail end of the field and had to work his way back through. And we also need to keep an eye as to what's happening at the sharp end of the SR1s as well, because there's a brilliant battle going on for the lead of the SR1s, just heading out of Copse Corner now. And it looks as though, just with his nose ahead, coming in towards the braking area for Beckett's, is going to be Marcus Littlewood, who is trying to apply the pressure to Sam Shaw, who leads the way. So Sam Shaw leading the SR1s, as he's done so much so far this season. But as ever, there is nothing to choose between them. Here's Sam Shaw trying to see if he can hug that inside line, but the black and the gold car that's trying to draw himself alongside is going to be, I think, losing out. Can't quite make it stick Marcus Littlewood as they went round through Stowe that time. And they're having their own little battle, whilst some of the SR3s are trying to thread their way through at the same time. I think it's Gavin McAlpine, isn't it, that's just behind them at this stage. They desperately like to try and get through. It always looks black on the screen, but it's a very dark green colour, Gavin McAlpine's car. Gavin, another former SR1 racer, so he knows what it's like to drive these SR1s that he's hot on the heels of. They're having their own fight at the moment. Sam Shaw has just got the upper hand on Marcus Littlewood. Marcus might have qualified on pole in the category, but it's Sam that's leading it, and the two of them are absolutely together again in towards the braking area for Village, up towards the loop. Might not have the power of the SR3s, but they're a light little car still. Come in at very little in terms of weight. Was it 600 kilograms, and that's including the driver and all of his equipment as well, so it's a light car, the SR1. Down the Wellington straight, and this is where they might get picked off, and yep, splitting the pack there by the look of things. So that really does help Sam Shaw, because he's now got Oscar Joyce right behind him, who was an SR3. Then he's got his main championship rival, which is Marcus Littlewood, and then Marcus Littlewood has his hands rather full as well with Gavin McAlpine's SR3. So Oscar Joyce able to, again, with the extra power of the SR3, go through and ahead of the SR1 battle. That can now resume itself again as they head up towards Copse Corner with former European karter Sam Shaw still leading that class at the moment, but not by a great deal. Marcus Littlewood, another Motorsport UK Academy driver. He was Academy Driver of the Year in 2023 at the wheel of the black and the gold number 11 car, still in second place in the SR1s, with the race leader in the SR1s just ahead of him. In terms of wins, well, Sam Shaw has had far more wins. He's had, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins in the SR3s so far this season. And he'll desperate to try and make it 8 if he can. 9 minutes of the race still to go. Flashing the lights is Ian Aguilera, doing anything to try and put the overall race leader Chris Lulham off. These two are separated by just 0.6 of a second, but last time through, the car in second place did set the fastest lap of the race. Now we're going to have a change for the lead of the SR1s. We might, as they head down in towards Club Corner. Yep, through goes the black and the gold car of Marcus Littlewood. And Sam Shaw now is going to have to see if he can work his way back onto the coattails, and the driver has just lost the lead of the SR1 category from them. They've still got SR3s trying to work their way past them, which is Gavin McAlpine. And then just behind Gavin McAlpine is going to be Andy Lowe trying to recover after his spin. Andy in the white and the blue SR3. So the door is left open by Marcus Littlewood, who allows Gavin McAlpine and Andy Lowe to squeeze their way through. He still hangs on the black and the gold car to the lead of the SR1 class, but again, look in his mirrors, who's there? It's Sam Shaw, his main championship rival. So the battle is still on for the lead of the SR1s. And who's third of the SR1s at the moment? You need to pick up on that. And third of the SR1s, I think, is Lexi Belk currently, who is running down in 20th position. Hers will be the white car with the Dayglow orange flashes to it. But she's a little bit further adrift of this leading pair in SR1s. So 8 minutes of the race still remain. Chris Lulham still leading the race overall from Ian Aguilera. Jack Yang still in third, but only just. He's still feeling the pressure from Alain Gashev that sits behind. And we've just had a new fastest lap put in the race, and who's that gone to? It's gone to the number 32 car, which is Luke Hilton, runner-up in the World Finals last year. He's just popped in a fastest lap time of a 2-minute 4.411, and again, that's good progress from him because he qualified 12th. There's Lexi Belk. Here is Wesley Fongini fighting away with Oscar Joyce, I think that is. Yes, it is. This will be for 11th and 12th position. Oscar Joyce goes through it ahead, so up to 11th goes Oscar Joyce. Wesley Fongini losing out there. Returning to the championship this weekend, Wesley Fongini, at the wheel of the familiar 360 competition colours. The multicoloured number 95 car of Oscar Joyce goes through. Another former SR1 racer, Oscar Joyce. Wesley Fongini with almost the Jean Alesi-esque helmet by the look of things there. Right, race leaders, again still flashing his lights in second place is Ian Aguilera, up towards Brooklands. They're about to complete lap number 9 this time through. But Chris Lulham for Valor Racing might have qualified on the outside of the front row of the grid, but when the lights went out, he got the jump, he got the start, he got the lead. Wasn't able to pull away because of the safety car, and even after the safety car, he has still not been able to put a great deal of daylight, has he, between himself and the Raw Motorsports car of Ian Aguilera. Raw Motorsports, Rob Weldon's team. He's a long-time radical racer himself, racing less so this season, having raced prototype cars in Europe for the last few years. He's busy doing lots of coaching and still preparing many cars indeed, including Ian Aguilera's car that runs there in second place. Valor Racing out front though, courtesy of Chris Lulham. Has the gap come down between the two? It has, yeah, because Ian Aguilera last time through posted a new fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 4.183, as he begins to close in again. There is an extra point for the fastest lap in the race. Ian Aguilera, I think, will be probably running in the invitation class for this weekend. For the lead of the SR1s, the number 11 car of Marcus Littlewood looks untroubled at the moment. Where is Sam Shaw? Has he disappeared up the road? Was he fallen behind? No, he's fallen behind, doesn't he? You can see him in the background of the shot there. Sam Shaw is the white car with the light blue and purple flashes to it, the number 16 car. So Marcus Littlewood has opened up a little bit more of a gap now between himself and the second place car in the SR1, so he's got a bit of breathing space for the first time really, and he's still chasing round SR3s as well. 5 minutes remain. Oscar Joyce at the wheel of the number 95 car, still running in 11th place. In fact, he's got himself inside the top 10 actually, because just looking at that, that is going to be the car of Hallmark, isn't it? Adrian Hallmark, who's fallen behind. So I think Oscar Joyce now inside the top 10 should be confirmed at the end of this lap. So charging drive from Oscar. who's been in his championship for a good period of time now, so has also ventured out to the North American Championship and the Gulf Cup as well. So over the start-finish line go the race leaders. Parked up at the side of the circuit is Gavin McAlpine, so I don't know when his car stopped because he was embroiled in that squabble amongst the SR1 front runners, but Gavin McAlpine is, I'm afraid, out of the race up at Luffield and will be going no further. Though no, it's not Luffield, that's down in towards Club actually, apologies. So for the lead of the race, Chris Lulham has always seemed to have everything under control. We've got less than 4 minutes to go. The lead advantage has been eroded. Ian Aguilera is going to need a new headlight switch in that car. He's pressed it that many times over the course of this race. Every single time the lights are flashing on and off. Anything to try and put Chris Lulham off, but there's not been a chink in the armour just as yet. Car in second place has set the fastest lap of the race. He was half a tenth of a second quicker last time through and is about another half a tenth quicker so far on this lap. So the gap's down to just under 0.6 of a second, I would say, at this stage of the lap. But of course they've still got the best part of half a lap to do. And through the second part of this lap, again through the second sector, Ian Aguilera again just a little bit quicker, 1/10 of a second quicker again than Chris Lulham. So the gap's going to be down to about half a second as they head in towards the braking area for the loop and then up towards Village. Now, is there any more traffic up the road that needs dealing with for Chris Lulham before too much longer? Could come into play in the closing stages of this one. He's still having to work overtime to try and keep Aguilera behind. And these two have opened up now the best part of a 5 3/4 second gap between themselves and Jack Yang, who's still there in third place and is slowly starting to increase the gap now between himself and the car behind of Alim Gushev. There's a spin and hopefully get the car fired up again, get it pointing in the right direction. No harm done. That looks as though that might be possibly at Luffield or maybe on the way in towards Club Corner, and pointing in the right direction, gets going. I think that was the number 40 car of James Hadley. Yeah, it was. So his grey and orange and light blue car was one of the few I hadn't spotted in the paddock earlier, so his spin was rather helpful there to at least identify the colour of his car. Good to see James back as well. Raced Radicals in 2021-2022, but we've not seen a great deal of him since. So Chris Lulham still leading the way. The lead advantage came down to just under 0.6 of a second last time through, so it's being chipped away at, but only just being chipped away at by Ian Aguilera. So it's come down by literally a few thousandths on that previous lap. It was, yeah, 10 thousandths was all it came down by on that previous lap. But again, picking up a bit of a toe down the hanger straight will help. Difficulty is, the closer you get, the more you get in the turbulent and dirty air of the car ahead, and therefore the harder you have to work those tyres, and the easier it is to make a mistake, and you end up dropping back again. So good little squabble going on between the pair of them. They'll be starting their last lap of the race next time through. I think there's just enough time to usher them over the start-finish line potentially. So they're lapping in about 2 minutes 4. And there's 1 minute and 4 to go, which I think will probably see them over the start-finish line before the clock ticks to 0. Problem is for Chris Lulham, he can't afford to ease off to allow that clock to tick to 0 because he hasn't built the gap. If he was far enough ahead, you could afford to almost ease off a little bit and make sure the clock's at 0, but he's not going to be able to do that at all. So out of Aintree onto the Wellington Straight for the 12th time. Chris Lulham still leading the way, has led since the very first corner, got the better start over pole sitter Ian Aguilera. Haven't really picked up on who's leading the Fangio class either in the SR3s. That's Peter Tyler that leads the Fangio class, the number 80 car down in 7th place, but only just does he lead that class because Paul Denning is right behind him actually, so we'll see if we can pick up on that. And third in the Fangio class is number 47 at the moment, which is going to be Rob Greenwood, but former SR1 racer is some way away from the 7th and 8th place cars that are fighting over the lead of the Fangio category. Fangio being for the drivers 45 and over. So up towards Abbey. There goes driver who lies second in the SR1s at the moment, which is Sam Shaw. He was looking to try and further extend his lead in the championship over Marcus Littlewood, but it looks like Marcus Littlewood is going to turn the tables a little bit, and he's certainly looking on course for a win in SR1s. That That would make it his 6th of the season. Now the clock has fully ticked to 0. Race leaders therefore should be on their final lap of the race. There's still fights going on though. This is Lexi Belk, who I think has been overtaken by Bradley Gaunt this time through. Yeah, Bradley's ahead. He wasn't at the beginning of the lap. And there's a spin late on and into the gravel trap, and that's Rob Greenwood, who was running 3rd in the Fangio category. Gets the car back in the right direction finally, gets his foot down, tries to clean up the tyres, will get going. But that may well have cost him a place or two. Now, if Oscar Joyce goes by, that will cost him a place. But if he loses a further place and Adrian Hallmark goes through, that would lose him a podium spot in the Fangio category. Lexi Belk and the Gaunt car absolutely together. Bradley Gaunt is going to lose out again, or is he? No, he goes back past Lexi Belk once more. So Bradley Gaunt picks up what would be 3rd place in the SR1s. Briefly lost it to Lexi, but retakes it again. The clock has ticked to 0. They've got one further tour of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, or 3.66 miles, to try and sort out who wants to finish on the final spot of the SR1 podium. And there was another spin there, and that looked like, again, one of the North Motorsport cars of Bradley or Ashley Gaunt. But out of the final corner, Chris Lulham has led pretty much the whole race. He is just, I think, going to avoid lapping James Hadley. Is he on the charge to the line? No, he's just going to pick him off. But it is going to be a win in round 13 of the 2024 Hagerty Radical Cup UK for Chris Lulham. So he'll be absolutely pleased with that. Had to work for it as well, didn't he? Because Ian Aguilera was never that far away. Jack Yang comes through to finish in 3rd place, his best result of the season so far. And congratulations to Alan Gashev, who comes through to finish in 4th place, just ahead of his main rival in the Gulf Cup, which is Usman Mughal, who finishes in 5th position. Completing the top 6 is going to be Luke Hilton, that finished in 6th position. Peter Tyler finishes in 7th place, so he'll pick up the win in the SR3 Fangio category, just ahead of Paul Denning. Oscar Joyce will be 9th, and then we just have to rate rather the 10th place car over the start-finish line, which I think is going to be Adrian Hallmark. So wait for Adrian Hallmark to come through. No, he didn't quite catch the recovering number 47 car of Rob Greenwood, so Rob Greenwood does hang on to the final place inside the top 10, but equally as much hangs on to the final spot on the SR3 Fangio podium for those drivers aged 45 and over. And then we also need to await the arrival of our SR1 winner over the start-finish line. We've still got battles going on though. Bradley Gaunt is still fighting away with Lexi Belk for the 3rd and final spot on the SR1 Cup podium. But the SR1 category has been won by Sam Shaw. Has been won, I should say, by Marcus Littlewood from Sam Shaw. And who's going to finish 3rd of the SR1's home? Is it going to be Bradley Gaunt? Might it be Lexi Belk? We'll have to wait and see. If it's the car with the Dayglow orange flashes, it will be Lexi. No, she's still just behind Bradley Gaunt, and they come up to the final corner at Luffield. And I don't quite think she's going to have enough. No, she is not quite going to be able to make it on the run to line. So Bradley Gaunt, by the skin of his teeth, and with a few problems along the way, contact with his brother, is going to come through to scoop up the final spot in the SR1 category. Now their 2nd fastest times will count for the 2nd race of the weekend that we will see. Their fastest lap times from this race, with the top half reversed in each one of the grids, that will give us the grid for race number 3. So once these results are confirmed for this race, we almost know then what the 3rd race grid is going to look like. There's Jack Yang. He'll be pleased with that. His best result of the 2024 championship season. He'd had a couple of 6th. He'd had a 5th, but he's not been on the podium so far this year. So Jack Yang, more than pleased with that one. And it's a great way for him to start off the weekend in reality. So that's the first of our Radical Cup races. Just to confirm the results, there won't be a graphic coming up, but just to give you the top 6. Chris Lulham wins the race from Ian Aguilera in 2nd place and Jack Yang in 3rd position. 4th place goes to Alim Gashev. 5th place is going to be Usman Mughal, and completing the top 6 is going to be Luke Hilton. Peter Tyler was 7th in the end. 8th place is going to be the car of Paul Denning. 9th place goes the way of Oscar Joyce, and completing the top 10 despite the spin on the final lap, Rob Greenwood. And just to pick out our winner of the SR1 category, it was Marcus Littlewood that won the SR1 category. So that's it for today, at least for the Radical Cup UK 2024 here at Silverstone. We've got our next race coming up for you, round 14 of the championship, our 2nd race of the weekend. That's coming up for you tomorrow morning at around about 10 past 10 in the morning. So from everybody here at Silverstone, until tomorrow, it's goodbye.